There can be only one podcast, and may it be the Prince of the Universe. Hi, folks. I'm Matt.
And I'm Wes.
Oh, hi.
I like our new cadence for this podcast.
You do.
It's almost AI.
We have a sponsor, I guess, for the subject. Is that correct?
Yes. This subject comes from Morristown, New Jersey, from Ralph.
Okay. If we're what's it called when you expose someone? Their name, their address. What is that called?
I don't know.
What do the kids call it? Anyway, I can't remember.
Sorry.
He just gave his hometown away, though.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
There's not many Ralphs, and
there's not many Ralphs there.
Middle-aged and crazy.
All right. So he was coming up with some good topics, and I didn't want to talk about because I want to do the podcast. And by the way, this preempted a scheduled podcast discussion because I do like this idea. I do like the suggestion. So thank you, Ralph. Fly on down here. We'll put you on the show.
Yeah, he's. I'm sure he's available. Never. So we were just he and I. As we've talked about in this, and we've many times about, how we all knew each other was working in a comic shop in the 90s. And so we kind of have a different look, maybe a little bit of a different insight into comics now and the trials and tribulations that came from the final parts of Endgame and how everything it's been very difficult to find rhythm since then. So we were talking
since the
about,
nearest wave,
yeah,
whatever this wave is, 4 or 5
years,
or whatever.
It's been pretty challenging.
Well, that's this new wave ever since Avengers Endgame.
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So we were just kind of discussing a lot of the ideas. We felt like some of what they're trying to do seems to be they're taking elements that were in comics, but some of those elements, just because they are canon material, doesn't mean it's good canon material. Comics have been around for many, 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 many years, and we can't say that all of those years have been collectively great. That's why certain years are looked at so fondly, and other years are like, yeah.
And there's been a big change in it. By the way, the word's called doxing. I couldn't remember what it's called.
Okay.
It's bothering me. Sorry.
Not to be confused with docking, if anyone knows what docking means. And that is not for boats.
Okay.
That's what happens.
That's the next podcast. All right. So this is very interesting, and he provided pointers. Is this correct?
Somewhat. Yeah.
Talking points, I should say.
Yeah. Talking
bullet
points.
Bullet points.
Yeah.
This is how Ralph works in bullet points.
Yes.
Real quick.
Yes.
To let the listeners know what type of person Ralph is, do we have a funny story about when y'all worked together or when y'all hung out together? Just to get Ralph's character.
Well, I can tell you a funny story about Ralph before I met him.
Oh.
They had went out to a bar here that was called the Honky Tonk.
I remember the Honky Tonk.
And Ralph was a little bit of a forward-thinking fashion fella. It's a lot of F's.
Yes.
Because it's usually followed up by the other one. And someone commented on what he was wearing in the bar and said, "Where did you just come back from?" And he said something very...
Did he say another F word?
To him about what he thought Ralph had been doing. And Ralph said, "No, actually, I was using that F word again, your mother." So a fight then broke out. So, yes.
That silver-tongued gorilla?
Yes. So that's a good Ralph story.
Yeah! All right, good deal. Now you know what we got, folks. This is the guy we listen to.
Right.
All right, go for it. I like his pointers, by the way.
We were just kind of discussing, what is already in the works until, I guess, all of these strikes come to an end, and what's next.
Yeah.
Talking about the revamped Captain America idea with this revamped Avengers idea, and we basically felt like this felt a little bit like maybe we were going into a, lack of a better term, West Coast Avengers type storyline, and What they're trying to do is recreate a certain magic that has come and gone from that initial wave, as opposed to really letting that be that material and then build around it. They're trying to recreate it.
They're trying to recreate magic that worked for them back then, but they're going about it wrong now.
Correct.
Case in point, because this is what I wanted to bring up when you first read these to me. You read them to me, I did not respond, but I thought about this. Now we're getting characters like, who cares? Shang-Chi? Who cares? I don't even know that person.
Well, we're
and
getting...
then other B, C, not even B, C, D characters. But you could say, well, Matt, Guardians of the Galaxy were D characters at best, and you're right. They were E characters or whatever the lowest rating is.
Correct.
But the thing is, though, the quality of how they presented these characters to us, how they delivered a story plot line to us, and how they made us care about them is the difference than what they have now going on with these characters we don't care about.
Part of the allure of Guardians in the beginning is it had nothing to do with the MCU.
Exactly. It was its own separate storyline.
Right. They just had this offshoot idea instead of trying to hook it in, which they eventually did.
But to be fair, Shang-Chi was its own little adventure, as was a few of these other ones. Now, honestly, the Doctor Strange 2 is obviously something that just connects a lot, kind of passes the buck. But they're taking these characters who we don't Miss Marvel. I'm going TV too, but I'm having trouble thinking of what other big movies have been out.
That has a lot to do with it. It's watering down
the product.
Right. Like a core situation. And we've got to a point now where we talked about market saturation on things, superhero fatigue. How much of that exists? And is it more of just the creative side of it? They're too taxed.
I honestly believe that. In fact, the writers don't deserve the money because writers recently writing these movies, they suck. You don't care about the characters. You don't care about the story plot lines are confusing. They jump scenes. You're like, well, why? If they did that, why didn't they do that? You didn't ask this in the old Avengers because they thought the stories out. They gave us characters we cared about.
Well, and I think you had creative people that had some tie to this material, and not to get on the Favreau bandwagon, which I'm not knocking that, but I mean, he is tied to a lot of important stuff in our genre, but he seems to kind of have a little skin in the game at the same point, rather than just
absolutely. He's a fan too.
Correct.
He's a fan too, and he wants what's best, and I can appreciate that. I don't watch the Star Wars stuff, but a lot of people say it's good, I'm sure Favreau has every intention to try to give us the best product ever. But it can tell rather than that or something else that I don't know the shows, but there are shows you're just you smack your head like, how stupid is this? I don't even know if you're watching Ahsoka right now.
I have started because I'm kind of like what I did with the Skrulls with you, and waited for it to be over to kind of see if I wanted to binge watch it. And
you didn't watch it, did you? Don't.
And even Ralph said the same thing. It was a major letdown. There were certain parts, but overall, it's. Like,
I agree with Ralph. I was like, oh, I'm interested. Oh, the Secret Squirrel Wars. Oh, okay. This is what Samuel Jackson's been doing for like 10 years in the post credits.
Right.
Okay, let's do this.
Why he's on the ship.
And you kept watching and watching, going, oh, this is boring. This is bad. Where did it was $250 million, whatever they spent on it? What'd they spend it on? That last scene, which sucked. All the special, when one Skrull has all the super powers in the Marvel universe combined. What? I don't get it.
Right.
That. You saw if you listened. I did the spoilers, but the thing is that doesn't make sense either. It's carelessness. The writers they've forgotten. They don't care. They're just throwing things out there, and that's not what we liked about it. Was we had characters we cared about first. You built an individual Iron Man. You built an individual. You took time before you did Iron Man and then the Avengers movie. You showed each individual on their own independently, so we had time to care and know and understand what type of people we were dealing with.
Yeah, build some.
Shoot, we got sequels to some of this before the first of I think we had Iron Man 2 before the Avengers.
Yeah, we had you built like customer loyalty, for lack of a better term. And you were vested into it.
But like, and I'm going to go. I don't know if this was your ad lib or something that Ralph said about what we want to build the West Coast Avengers now. No one cares, and it seems like obviously they're trying to scrap together a new Avengers team of U.S. Agent, Miss Marvel, whoever, the fill-ins. And wow, you haven't defined these characters to us. You haven't endeared these characters to us. If She-Hulk's supposed to replace the Hulk, I'm out.
I think that was what we were talking about. I felt like instead of trying to, and I know Captain America, different people have been Captain America, so I'm not saying that that's not canon. I'm just saying, why not, if you want to go with him as Captain America, why not just keep him as Falcon? And
well, he's like a Falcon in a Captain America outfit, and it just
correct.
It's messy.
It is messy.
It's messy. Just be Falcon. Falcon's a great character. Be Falcon.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with being Falcon. Let U.S. Agent kind of takes that role. That's what they were kind of hinting to in the post credits of that.
Right.
And I'm fine with it. I like U.S. Agent. In fact, that was one thing I did like about it. I liked how he was. My wife hated him. He was like, he's not Captain America. I said, no, he's not. But this is the U.S. Agent story, which I love.
He's flawed, so it has some intrigue. So no, that was just we were discussing, as opposed to why do that when instead of that you do have the ability to finally delve into, maybe since you've really went out of your way to exercise a lot of the MCU side of it, why not delve into the X-Men side of it?
Well, they just bought Fox, and you're right. They should have fast-tracked. They should when the deal was signed and the ink wasn't dry, they should have said, write that script now.
Right.
Let's get this do a casting call before we have a script.
I know they tried to get after the Deadpool 3 thing, but to me that seemed like
you could have made a movie since they bought Fox.
Right, that's my point. Like what?
But why didn't you fast track that?
What? And I understand that like they probably had other properties going, but it seems like everything that they had going was very much, we're going to take a 2-episode series and link it to 4 to 6 episodes, and it's been the law of diminishing returns.
Well, X-Men's a very bankable product. They've seen this in the past. They've seen movies that were successful in the past, and they're thinking, okay, what can we do now? What can we do to revitalize this or change it or bring it in?
Right.
And I know Ralph had said something. I don't want to jump ahead. Forgive me if I am, but he had said something about Fantastic Four as well.
Right.
And Fantastic Four, you had talked about it being rebooted twice and failing and not knowing how they could do it.
Right.
I think they could. First off, get it right. It seems like everyone wants to give this Fantastic Four a weird twist. Or do you remember the new one or the last one?
Yes.
How that was awful.
Yeah, I could. And granted, I don't give things enough time in a lot of ways, so I can't be a good judge on all of that. But I felt like I got through 45 minutes and was like, this has really not done much yet.
It's bad. And the first one, the very first one, that was okay. That was fine. I enjoyed it.
It was good for what it was.
And the second one was such a letdown because Galactus, you got to show Galactus.
Right.
You got to show Galactus in this. So, to be honest, in my opinion, the first movie they make does not have Doctor Doom in it. You need to retire that. You need to put that character on the sidelines. Like they put Green Goblin on the sidelines for Spider-Man. He's one of the, probably, in my opinion, he's the arch nemesis of he is the arch nemesis.
Well, it's funny you say that about Doctor Doom because that's what he thinks they need to build on rather than how they're building it now. But
no, you got to step away from Doctor Doom now. You've had too many Doctor Dooms, and now it's time to just step away. Look at Spider-Man. I would do Silver Surfer and Galactus. Maybe that's too soon. Maybe that's going big. But who are you going to get after that? I mean, they don't have the big Mole Man,
right,
which I would love. They would never do Mole Man,
right?
But maybe something like that. If they, I would skip their origin, like the third movie did. Just skip their origin. I would do that too.
Yeah.
You have to do something that says jump to it and kind of separate from the past failures. Later on, you can bring Doctor Doom. Obviously, Doom is tied to that. Don't bring Namor. He was terrible. But, I mean, at the same time, Namor's a part of Fantastic Four, so if you want to make those connections, I would not do that. I thought the character was awful.
Yeah, I think that the best thing they can do is not And I don't know what to do about Fantastic Four. I wouldn't say that I consider that what they need to do because it's just been so mishandled so many times.
It has, but you got to keep away from Doctor Doom this time. You got to just separate from all those other movies and show them a different side. I mean, maybe it is, since we love tying the MCU together, maybe it is a Namor uprising storyline that the Fantastic Four now have to deal with.
Yeah, I just feel like that if they would delve more into giving a 6-year time frame of X-Men layered things and let Deadpool be a big part of that, since that is a bankable.
Deadpool 3 was, and you have you heard the rumors or the speculations about this movie that it's supposed to be one that kind of ties in the reboot,
Right.
He's going to basically make fun of everything, and he's going to be the reason the MCU quote unquote is a mess.
Right.
You know, he'll be the guy, the prankster kind of going all through it. But you know, and I like the shot we got of him and Wolverine in the old 90s, you know, cartoon. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. They know what they're doing. I have no fear that Deadpool 3 is going to be fun.
Which to me is odd, because why is that character being handled so well and so many other characters are not?
I think Ryan Reynolds has a lot of creative control there, and I think he cares about the character, and he cares about the fans, and he wants to give them the best version of Deadpool that he can.
Right.
And he's entertaining as is, so the character's a perfect match for Ryan. There's no one that should play him after this.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think that's why, because there's a lot of care by everyone wants to put together a good movie when it comes to Deadpool, and you can, because Deadpool's a fantastic character. But look at Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm going back to Guardians of the Galaxy. Their comic book is not exciting. Their comic book is not exciting. The character back in the day.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
No one has fun. No one in our comic book store said, "You know what I love? I love Guardians of the Galaxy." I wouldn't have known what you were talking about.
I wouldn't have either.
And the thing is, though, I mean, they've been around for a long time. But the thing is, though, what they do, they made lovable characters. They took the characters, they made you love them, they made you care about them. They built a story around them, like you said. They're separate from the MCU.
Right.
And later on, they got more involved, and that's fine, because eventually superheroes are going to run into each other. I'm
That's
fine with that.
totally okay.
But I've enjoyed the third one. I was like, this is
I thought
fun.
it was phenomenal.
This is fun. In fact, that's the MCU will never be like that again. It's almost like bye when they're saying bye in the credits. I was thinking, you know what? Yeah, bye MCU. You stop there. You know, I mean, you could stop at Endgame. That's fine too. But if you want to watch Guardians of the Galaxy 3, it's hilarious. It's great. It's just a fun. Again, they didn't go big connection. I mean, Thor's still with them, but that was fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. Then he had his little moment, and he's gone.
Right.
And now we focus on just a regular. It's kind of wild because it's a raccoon.
I thought the Rocket Raccoon
Rocket Raccoon story, which is great.
great.
But it has nothing. It doesn't tie into the first one, and now the final story arc.
Yeah,
the villain from the first one's back.
Wasn't grand.
It doesn't have to be.
It was granular versus like.
But it was so much fun. Yeah, they had fun with it. They fight a bad guy who makes sense. High evolutionaries trying to make a perfect world. I get it. He's a little brain crack too, but the bad guy makes sense. The ideas, and they have fun, and the whole thing. I don't know if you ever saw. Did you see the short I Am Groot, the little shorts on Netflix or whatever they were? Disney. They're cute. They're even those. They're like 2 minutes each or whatever. I watched them with my little girl. We giggled, laughed. Had a good time. I was like, you know what? This is all you need. Something simple, not hard, just fun, just stupid fun. And that's what it was. And they've lost that. Now it's got to be this epic thing. We got to have this. But they don't give you enough time to enjoy any of these characters. Black Widow, why did they even make it? What a garbage movie.
Yeah,
I didn't like it.
I feel like they tried to just, they've done all they can do with these characters, and now they're trying to rehash them in a different form. And that's the fatigue of the superhero fatigue that we kind of
Doctor
referenced.
Strange 2 I like better than the first one, but I hated the first one. And I'll be honest, I like Sam Raimi, and it was Sam Raimi put his stamp on it. Honestly, he put so many, in my opinion, Evil Dead shots and angles. I was thinking, is he just doing this for Evil Dead fans?
Well, but I thought the Scarlet Witch storyline was good.
No, it was fine. I enjoyed it. Some people don't like it, but I enjoyed it. But I thought, wow, he is really, because the car that you're always trying to find, it's just sitting there right as rain in the middle of a scene. It's twisting in the wind or whatever during that strange thing. I was like, that's funny. Bruce Campbell's seen it. That's funny too. But I was thinking, would people get this? Do people understand who's directing this? Because I feel like the regular MCU fan doesn't know
I think
that.
that's not important. I don't think you have everybody.
Oh no, I loved
to get everything.
No.
That's part of it.
But I loved it, and I hope that's not why some people didn't like it because they were confused by things.
Yeah, well, I guess the big point of that is like what you're saying is you can do things for different parts of the fans. Not everything has to perfectly link up. And they were fortunate almost that they did that well with the
and this one links up because it makes Scarlet Witch the villain, and this one was great. And by the way, my wife and my buddy's Bruce's wife, who went to go see it, they both sided with Scarlet Witch. Heck yeah! If my kids existed in another world, I'd kill everyone to get to them. And so everyone can relate to the villain.
Correct.
And I was like, you know what? That's a good villain then.
Correct.
It's not just someone I'm evil because I'm evil.
Yeah, a good villain is someone that it makes sense to them what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's easy to get behind.
But usually the villains is just motivated by greed, power, money. You know,
sure.
That's all it is. Yeah. And I mean, I get that. Nice, but we have a villain that we can kind of understand and side with. I thought those villains were done really well. A villain can make or break a movie.
Totally.
But there's something lacking in everything. There's a lack of love. There's a lack of care. I think Moon Knight looks so good, and I could not be more bored.
I agree.
But that's one where the CGI was really good. His costume looked awesome. His glowing eyes. It reminded me of the old school Batman, real costume here, but a fake cape, obviously. But it still looked good.
It looked
I was
really
like, they
good.
used just enough CGI when they should have in that show, and I was like, right on. But boy, was I bored. Right. Pretty costume.
Visually stimulating.
Visually great, but just so bored. And they just haven't gotten the formula down. Miss Marvel, you've heard me talk about this. The first episode's like, all right, they're going for the cute little girl thing. Who wants to be a superhero? I get it. And then they had nowhere to go. They didn't know what to do next. And how do you go 6 episodes and you just don't have any idea where you want? The story drags.
And I know that we've beat that up and everybody else has, but I think that is it. They've just give it a little bit of a tighter. You don't need movies to be 3 hours. You can do 2.5.
WandaVision. Really, nothing happens in the first couple episodes because they're just camping on 50s television, 60s television, and I was loving that. But what's going on here? I don't care. I love it. It's fun.
Yeah.
And then they, the last few episodes they got serious and did the thing. But I was like, you know what? That was enjoyable. Loki was I loved Loki. I'm just saying there have been times they've cared about something, and then but most of the shows out now, I mean, even Hawkeye I enjoyed. I thought that was enjoyable.
Right.
But everything else they've been coming out with, it's just like no one cares about this. Does anyone care? Do the writers care?
And for what we were discussing, kind of just to bring all this back into a spot to kind of wrap up on is where do they want this to be? Because you've got to, I'm sure, lack of a better term, there is an end game to where they're wanting to take this.
At this point, I don't know, but yeah, there has to be.
It doesn't seem like, I don't know if they don't know what that is or if they really just don't know how to get there. They just want to get as much.
I think they're flying by the seat of their pants and they just don't know. They're pretending they know because they're wink, wink, hey, wait till you see what we have in store. You have nothing in store.
Their research and development is not there.
Yeah. And then another unfortunate thing is Avengers Endgame was the swan song for so many of their big names. You retired all your interesting characters all at once. You didn't phase them out one at a time or, over time.
But, and to go back on that too, is I think that's why it was so good, is it did bring everything to a closure.
No, I get it.
You have to have stakes that matter and not where, we're just going to bring them back.
No, it was great, but
that's why I don't think we need to have another Captain America, because it's like, well, can we just miss Captain America first?
Yeah. No, I agree with this.
Yeah,
I agree with this because the end game was truly the end game, but now, where do you go from this? Well, you start from humble beginnings to a whole different bunch of cast and crew that we've never seen before, make us care about them.
Yeah, don't make everything linked just yet.
And then give them a crisis later on they can solve.
See what people like.
But don't just say, well, we're going to throw this out wide just because we feel that, But now it's like, we just stamp Marvel and people go see it. Because it used to be you used to throw Marvel up on the screen, people go see it. People have to go see it. People go crazy, get a a tattoo of the character, you know. So, anyway, though, no, I agree. So, are there any other Ralph thoughts? I'm sorry.
The biggest thing is we felt like they needed to go one way hard with the X-Men side, and then you could build off of that.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like you have really, the mutant side of it is what you really haven't tackled enough of, and the only big core group that seemed they cannot find how to get it off the ground correctly is Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And my thing is it even worth trying to do, because they have yet to get it right. It's almost gotten worse. The more they tinker with it, they get less out of it. So maybe you should just let that be.
True. But they're Fantastic Four. They're such a big name. They're recognizable. Does Ralph think they have to use them?
Well, he's a big believer in it, but
I am too. I join him.
He's a big believer in he feels like Doctor Doom should be behind all of this, and you don't. So
no, I don't.
There's core parts of it that everybody can pull and tug on.
Yeah, I just think that Doctor Doom's been done, and it reminisces, because all they can think of is do Doctor Doom again. I'm glad Green Goblin never came back. You know, I mean, in the Andrew Garfield ones, they were teasing his return, which probably would have been in the third one, but didn't happen. But they gave that character a rest and said, we need to not start with
I think
Green Goblin
has
again.
a lot to do with why Spider-Man is their most bankable character.
But,
and the same way that is for DC because of Batman.
But how would you have liked it? Because it was Green Goblin that killed Gwen Stacy. How would you like if they'd put Green Goblin versus Andrew Garfield? It was like, okay, well, it's a new Green Goblin. And then for Tom Holland's character, his first bad guy is not the Vulture, it's Green Goblin again. Because
I agree.
it's time to
I don't think
that should. Yeah, that's why I'm saying. And to be honest, Vulture's one of my favorite villains. Vulture makes super sense too. I was shocked that when I saw it was Vulture, I was like, oh, that's lame. But I really enjoyed
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton's bankable, man.
Yeah.
Bankable. So good. Yeah. Good stuff. Real quick, Star Wars. You said something about Star Wars? Go ahead.
Yes.
We got minutes.
Oh, okay. We were just spitballing some ideas and talking about...
Well, give your idea. We have enough time for your one idea. Who is the trilogy or the series about? It's not about Luke Skywalker or even Anakin Skywalker.
I feel like it's the Obi-Wan story.
And why? It's a good theory.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a few things, but the biggest thing is about the 45-second clip in A New Hope when he and Luke are talking about, you know, I knew your father, he was a good pilot. They talk about the Clone Wars. I don't want to quote this verbatim, but there's a lot of power in that, and I know a lot of it is Alec Guinness, but my thing is so much of this is Obi-Wan with dealing with all this guilt and trying to figure out how he's going to kind of make amends, which that was kind of showed in the Obi-Wan series. But with the Star Wars universe, we were discussing, instead of waiting so many years and why he may have waited so many years, where could that movie have looked Episode 1 in 1986? You know, that was kind of the idea of what we were talking about. Because you could build off of that in a way that was not so CGI driven, and maybe the story had not laid dormant so long where you forgot what your main goal was to even do it. It's kind of like being in an argument with somebody for so long and you go, why aren't we even angry at each other?
Yeah.
That's how I felt like Episode 1 was in the 90s.
And we also mentioned about how what would it have been if George Lucas would have just kept plowing through and said, okay, after Return of the Jedi, instead of focusing on other projects, not as successful,
right?
I would like to go ahead and complete Star Wars every 3 years. So technically we would have one in 86, 89, and 92.
Correct.
And what would that look like? And I said we'd probably get someone like Francis Ford Coppola, Spielberg, and definitely Ron Howard, because he directed Willow back in those days. So I think we would have gotten more guest directors. I don't think George would have come back. I think he was happy on the creative side with a lot less pressure of directing. And we would have had better movies, because those are great directors who could have gotten the best out of their actors. And we would have still had, it was the rise of the CGI, heavy CGI wasn't there yet because that had happened right before, 1 year before Jurassic Park came out.
Right.
So you would have still had to rely on some
Serious
movie magic, but also some serious, maybe some more puppeteering. Puppeteering would get better as time goes on. As we know from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Jim Henson was perfecting the art at the time. More beautiful matte paintings. You would have had more movie magic. And I think the prequel trilogy in those cases would have been more grounded.
Correct.
If that was the case. In fact, a lot of it, like I said, I'll never defend the prequels because there's a lot of CGI. And you can tell.
Yeah, it comes off very like
hollow.
Cut.
And scenes.
Cut.
Though I think some of the actors there did a good job. You know, and there's a lot of things I like about the prequels, and there's people who love the prequels, but like I said, there's also it's very heavy CGI. It was disheartening to watch the behind the scenes of those DVDs, only to see that they're just in a blue room.
Right.
And that's it. It's just Obi-Wan talking into a blue room. How depressing.
Correct. That
you didn't even make a set. You know, even the set's fake. Oh well. Anyway, good thoughts. Hey folks, tell us what you think. What's wrong? Where did Marvel go wrong? What they should have done? Everyone's thinking about this because everyone's talked about it before. So give us your opinion. Let us know about what you think about Wes's Obi-Wan Kenobi. I thought was fun. Obi-Wan Kenobi theory. And let us know, what do you think Ralph likes to eat, likes to wear?
What is this podcast
Ponder about Ralph. Ponder about Ralph, will you? Okay? And let us know your thoughts about who you think Ralph, what kind of life has he walked? Honestly, I want to see this. Give us your random comments, no matter how hilarious it is, and we'll see you next time on Princes of the Universe.